what was a question mark as far as depth goes, defensive tackle, now even a bigger question mark. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
You know, I'm just now seeing the news about Winfrey. I think a good replacement for him would be Shelby Harris. He's a good run stopper. I think he fits what Jim Schwartz wants to do perfectly. I think he's a good depth piece. And I think he will also be a very good asset. I think he can make this 53-man roster. And I think now that we have Perrion Winfrey off of the Browns roster, I think now we can focus on the season. We don't have to worry about any bad apples, no other situations. So we just have to keep our eye focused and go to the Super Bowl. Yep, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, I would imagine, and we'll have a list of a couple here in a minute, but I would imagine they look for a defensive tackle. I don't necessarily know if they're going to go free agent route. Remember, we've talked about it in the past, 900 players will become free agents after that last preseason game before the first regular season game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because on one hand, you know, there's a chance Winfrey could have had a big role, a significant role. We don't know who the starter is next to Dalvin Tomlinson. I didn't expect it to be Winfrey, and he missed a couple of those minicamp practices after the alleged robbery at gunpoint where he was allegedly the victim. So you didn't get to see where he kind of fit in the depth chart. But I certainly think he was a candidate to, if not start, to play a decent amount in that D-tackle rotation. Having said that, they have some depth, right? They have Tomlinson. They have Jordan Elliott back, who was your starter for last year. They drafted Siaki Ika. They also signed veterans Maurice Hurst and Tristan Hill, who've had some injuries, but have also flashed during their NFL careers. You have Tommy Togiai still. So, they have some bodies. I don't think they're going to play two D tackles a ton, but I would expect them to at least explore options because now you're going to have a roster spot open, or you do have a roster spot open. That's a position that's important to Jim Schwartz. I think the number one thing they might be looking for, the caller mentioned run stopper. You know, they kind of have that in Tomlinson. I think they might be looking for more of a penetrating pass rusher guy because I thought that was Winfrey's strength as opposed to being a run stopper.
Yeah, that's fair without question. And Ika is kind of that big-bodied run stopper, too, the rookie they drafted. All right, along those lines, this from Dog Pound Daily, 3 free agent defensive tackles the Browns should add. They say before training camp. That's going to be really rough because training camp is about to get underway. They go Shelby Harris, number 3. According to PFF, graded out at a 73.2, which is better than most of the Browns' current defensive tackles. It's the one the voicemailer liked. Number 2, Chris Wormley had season-ending knee surgery a year ago, sustaining an ACL, and his current projected return is late September. And number 1, Linval Joseph, 35 years old, registered 20 tackles, 9 games last season with the Eagles. Those are all fine. You know, I get the names. You know, Ndamukong Suh you could throw out there. You know, they're looking for a piece, and it doesn't have to play a lot.
Yeah, I think it's the question of do they feel they need more experience, right? Or can they get by with a guy that gets cut, you know, first or second year player that gets cut, like you said, at the end of training camp? Do they need to spend whatever, even if it's a veteran minimum, right? That's more money than a rookie costs. You know, it's probably twice as much money. Do they want to spend salary cap dollars like that? Those are the kind of decisions Andrew Berry's going to have to make with input from Jim Schwartz, right, the defensive coordinator. So I wouldn't rule out any of those names. I just don't know if we're going to get a recognizable name before we go to the Greenbrier on Friday and Saturday. You know, to me, that's the first question.
Yeah, and that makes a whole lot of sense. And the other thing is, you don't have a game until September, so that you can sit back and see, you know, can Alex Wright kick inside? Can Isaiah? You have the ability to let Jim Schwartz sort through who they have there. Here's another one that we use Mac's tweets quite a bit. Mac likes Chris Wormley. Wormley makes sense. Cheap, last contract, 2 years, $4.5 million. That's still up there. 52% of his career snaps as a DT, 11 pressures, 15 run stops in 13 games last year. So, again, there's Wormley. Again, he's coming off an ACL. So, you have to factor that in.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's playing C or D, right? And you get another guy, and if he doesn't work out, or you go young guys and say, hey, let's give whoever. I mean, Tommy Togia, I didn't think had a chance to make this team. Maybe he does. He was, I think he's a 4th-round pick 2 years ago. So maybe Andrew Berry says, hey, this is a chance for him to step up and contribute. If he doesn't succeed in training camp in the preseason, maybe Wormley's then, okay, hey, we got him on the back shelf. So, I think there's options. I don't think it's, life or death that they go sign somebody right away, but it's certainly worth monitoring. And the number one reason I say that is we know how much Jim Schwartz values the D-line as a entirety, right, as a whole entity. I think more of that's at end, but you need the tackles as well.